Hello guys. So today is 14th of April. This is Philipp Druzhinin, and I'm covering the topic of locals, so-called locals, uh, also known as Aborigines. So we're gonna talk about some crazy people which supposed to totally ruin the history. Those locals were called Scythians, and they lived throughout or maybe all the territory of modern Eurasia and Northern America, and even some parts of Southern America, close to Chile and Peru, were were inhabited by those people, and they've been called different ways, different times, and stretched on the timeline to falsify the history. So at first they were called Scythians, maybe. Then they were called like Huns. Then they were split on Germans, Slavic people, and Anglo-Sax and stuff like that. So many people, many nations, and they were all from the same root. So those Scythian people were pretty advanced, and not many people know that they were living not only on the territory of so-called Black Sea, which was called at that time also similar to that, but we know that the territory of European part of Russia and also Ural Mountains, Siberia, and even Far East close to China was inhabited by those Scythian tribes, which were locals at that period of time. So they were living in those areas. They were original nations. And so to those people who really were so natural, so ecological, and advanced in that, some parasites came, and those parasites knew that they can't win because this cell is guarded by many different energies. And this cell is the cell of transaction. And this cell is also the center of the whole cell structure around it, which is called universe. So if we talk about that, we should be showing first those Scythian level of technologies that they had at the time when actually parasites came. So I'll try to screen share and check if we see it on the screen, because sometimes I miss that. Yes, we have it. So this is actually the example of some archaeological facts found in Tuva. I'm gonna show you where's Tuva so you can realize that on the map. So if we check right in the middle of Eurasia, somewhere here, we're gonna find this region of Russia, modern Russia. So this is Tuva, and this was found not close to that place. So it's in the middle of Eurasia, so-called Eurasia. And this is they dated to the periods of not even 7th century before Christ, 7th century before Christ, not uh, at least 7th century. So we gotta understand that it could be a lot more earlier than that and older actually. So they found like 9,300 those gold coins, as they call them, and those necklet parts. These are just all necklet parts. This is how it looks, what they found, the reconstruction of actually how it was laying on the ground. So it was like a warrior covered with gold with his maybe wife, at least a woman. And this is how those places actually looked. And this is the quality of this job. As you can see, it's amazing. These are these little animals that we saw before. So now you can understand how precise this job was. This is unbelievable. This is really, really small. Really, really small. And that's the reconstruction of the clothes, those guys. So these look, to me, they look pretty Finnish. So like people from Finland and maybe Latvia, maybe northern parts of Russia saw some of this in their motifs of their folk clothes, and maybe even something Irish here. I can see maybe Irish people tell me something. Does it look the same? This guy looks pretty much like some guy from Switzerland, or maybe Austria, from the Alpine mountains. Okay, another necklace. Just understand that this is very, very old. And look how it did preserve. So the quality of gold was pretty amazing because it did preserve. Only the things that were not made from gold actually little ruined, but the same is gold is okay. So we cannot just imagine that this was made by those nomads, as they call Scythian people tribes. So I don't understand that. So nomads didn't have masters of some, arts and jobs. I think they did. I think they did. They could have done it with their own hands. So everybody was a master of everything. That's what they say, because nomad doesn't have to have a special type of people to do something. They supposed to do it the tribe's supposed to be autonomous, and it can like travel and stuff like that. So I think you understand what I'm saying. So if we think that they are really nomads, how could they do it like this? So if we suppose they were having special people, special professions, special professionals, or whatever you call them, so they're already not nomads. They're supposed to have villages, they're supposed to have little, maybe towns, not just nomadic type of, thing. And this is just amazing artifact. When I saw Wise Up movie videos, recent videos, and I encourage you guys to watch his channel because he shows really interesting point of view, and he was showing some supposedly, as he supposed, maybe in his opinion, metal objects that turn to stone. And I don't know what's the date of those objects. How did he dates, and how old are they? Yeah? This knife, or whatever you call them, is also from the same period, because this is just one grave, one burial hill, whatever you call it. So this one is made from iron ore, and it is incrustated, as you can see, incrustated with gold, of amazing quality artwork made of gold. So if we're talking about that period that those scientists tell us, and they tell us this was a Bronze Age period as it dates in the timeline of mainstream science, how can the Bronze Age have iron ore and making this steel thing incrustated with this gold with maiden quality? I don't know. So those nomads, those locals, they were pretty advanced. As you can see, these objects look very simple, but this is just what was found in the grave. I don't think that we put the best of our things in the grave, and I think the most useful things are still stays up with the hands of new owners, maybe offsprings of the deceased persons. So I don't think they put all the best things that they had in the grave of deceased uh, this man and woman who who were dead. I think they were just putting simple objects that they used to love, and that's it. Because I don't think they pressured this metal as much as we do. It was obviously just a metal which doesn't get rusty and stuff like that. So that's it for them. And this is a reconstruction of the faces of those Scythian tribes, so they look pretty European to me. Okay, and those so-called burial hills, let's see, yes, we have it. Burial hills, this is an article about the period I am researching, the period of after the flood, after the last flood of 19th century. So they date these so-called archaeological things started in 1851 to 1854, so probably just after the flood. and it was started by Duke Uvarov, which now is mistake. We have a wrong understanding that he was archaeologist. He was not. He was just a duke. So that duke was digging out those burial hills in this region close to Moscow. Let me show it where it is. Okay. Right here. So there's Moscow and close to Suzdal and Vladimir, which is probably not the place of Scythian tribes, as they say to us, because they say those are Finno-Ugrish. But I think it's one type of people, one type of nation, this which was actually local at that period of time in this region. So Aborigines, so-called Aborigines. So, and let's say what I was trying to show. Okay, this is the example of how did they do these archaeological excavations. So this one picture from that period, as you can see, people are standing and nobody is like shaking and stuff like that. So this is probably ready to shed stuff like that, because one guy told me that they didn't have the exposure of those first photographs, and people supposed to stand in this position for like 5 minutes. Just imagine if you stand with this and your head is turned in one direction, and it's not pretty comfortable. As you can see, those guys standing in this leaning position. So I think I couldn't be handled to stand for 5 minutes and not move here, because it's pretty hard. So this one is sitting, maybe he's comfortable, but those are standing, not very comfortable to stand for 5 minutes. So I think this is another myth of fake historicals about those old photograph pictures. So whatever, this was the expedition of the Duke, which were digging the so-called burial hills. This is the one part of this burial hill, as you can see. So in 3 years, they opened 96 burial hills in that area. But this was one of the hugest group of burial hills in that area, and it calculated, or it was calculated that there were about 3,000 burial hills. So 3,000, and they opened like 96, so not very much, as you can see. But they started to do it more efficient, and this Duke Uvarov, this is his picture. He was assigned to do it, and he was excavating from 703 and 30 730 burial hills actually. So let's see what he was saying here. This is how they look right now. So they all trashed, and everything was destroyed inside of them. So we have those burial hills close to where I live too. So I have showed it a bunch of times. So when you go there, you can like see a big hole inside of it and nothing in it. So they trashed all those 700. Then they trashed the rest. So in fact, they trashed 3,103 burial hills. So when we calculate this position, so it was not an archaeological research. It was just robbery, because when you trash those burial hills with this type of speed, you ain't doing it well. You ain't doing this archaeological thing, because you're supposed to like stay a while on each object of excavation, and at least write things down, make a composure, list those findings and stuff like that, do those measurements and stuff like that. So this is just impossible, and nothing from those burial hills actually survived till the modern time. So we don't have no evidence of anything from those periods. And again, this is the pictures of locals from United States. They were made in the end of 19th century. Also, we can see that those people dress sometimes pretty funny, but those faces remind me um, quite different picture, not the picture I used to watch in the movies about cowboys versus Indians and stuff like that, the Wild West. Those pictures remind me faces of maybe the guys that I see every day in subway when I use metro and stuff like that. So they just look pretty Russian to me. I don't know. Maybe some of them look familiar to you, but I don't think they can be definitely be something alien. Just maybe a little bit not, maybe a little bit old-fashioned, but not like, something that I cannot, that I didn't see before. This guy looks pretty Mexican to me, but if you see this type of mustache, we have it too here in Russia. Maybe his eye is a little bit too small, but still, he is pretty Russian to me, because I've seen those type of people, and this we call it typage in Russia. This type of people, because this type of look is pretty familiar to me. This is like chief of Gull Gull Lake Chippewas, but I think he looks pretty European. And this is also proven the pictures that I was showing about king of Florida and king of uh, maybe New England or something like that. And those guys look pretty European too. And but they have this type of clothes that just those people have, Indian type of clothes. This guy looks pretty Asian, not Indian, but he is Indian, as they say. This is Indian boy adopted. He doesn't look Indian to me, but he was Indian. This is also adopted Indian. Another Indian. If he didn't have this feather in his hair, if he had another haircut, he could be just maybe if he was blonde hair, but we don't know his hair course. Maybe it was slightly brown. Who knows? So I'm not saying that it's correct for 1,000%, 100%, whatever you call it. But I see those faces in the town that I live, the city that I live. So that was what I was trying to say. This one, it looks like a guy from, from Portsmouth, Great Britain, and he likes, if he's like a tough guy in a bar, and he kicks you out when you get too drunk. This one also looks pretty Russian. They all chiefs or some type of Indians. Okay, I think we can stop at that. So let's see if we have any questions. Oh, Wise Up, can you enter the talk if I send you an invitation? Let's see. Let me throw you the link so you can enter the conversation. You can find it in personal messages. Let's see if he catches the invitation. So. What's up? Are you here? Can you type it in the chat? Yeah, Ludin, I've been telling them about this calendar for a bunch of times, so people heard about it. What today is like 7/75/25, summer from the last dating period, which was the creating of peace treaty, and it was created with two main local nations, one of which was probably the nation I was describing right now, so-called Scythian nations. So, and one other nation was called the nation of Dragon. I bet you know which nation is authorizing dragons as their guard nation, guard animal This is the nation of China. Let's see if Wise Up enters. Wise Up doesn't enter. Okay, guys, let's understand if we have any decent questions for the topic. Aboriginal is abnormal. No, Aboriginal is just a nickname for the local people, I think. We cannot find anything like in more than original. Original, maybe that's fine. And that's fine. If you say that, it's just fine. Okay, let's see if we have some more. Artifacts are from worldwide ancient Vedic civilization. Yeah, whatever you call it, it was interfered by the parasitic nations from the other cells of this universe. So probably the Vedic civilization wasn't that immune to this parasitic race that had androgenic nature, so they could have been a wife and a husband at the same time. That's what the books tell us. Some of them already published, some of them are still held for better times because we have like a whole bunch of enemies here, and most of the people get in jail for this type of information. So Wise Up is telling already isolated earliest days from oldest graves of which none were buried, going to include how I think in the Black Death was in fact when the mud flood took place, not trying to nail down calendar. Well, I cannot trust anything, as I've said before, 19th century. If we cannot figure out what would happen in this period of time, how can we talk about anything earlier than that? So we can just observe the things and listen to the dates and the timeline that they give us, and we can like say, is it a bull, or is it a probable bull, or is it a possible thing? So Indians look like a mixture of about 4 nationalities. I don't think so. I think so. They're just locals, and maybe the rest of the nations that we have came from other cells, because uh, like Australia, for example, it has like some type of animals. Most of the animals of Australia are indigenous, or whatever you call it, for this continent. So is the cell. Cell has indigenous nations. So when the other nations interfere the cell and they bring their people to attack the owner of the cell, and that's how the battle begins. So you enter the cell with your amount of maybe some small amount of people, but you lose everything because you forget your past lives, you forget your experience in the previous times, and you forget because you gain a new body, and you have to first you have to make some type of special operation to create a body in which you can enter. So this is why the God created two people in some area that he called Eden, after all the people were already created by some other God. So now you understand the definition of this Genesis uh, first chapter. So if you want to enter one world, one cell, you have to create some kind of a body construction, a body, body. So you can enter with your soul to this body and progress as you make your children and stuff like that. You can send more souls to those bodies, and that's how you occupy the cell, actually, because this world is connected from one light Navi world and dark Navi world. We have connection, and the only thing you can do to enter is create a body here. So you have to do a special type of operation, in creating this thing. You have to send some type of god who can interfere the rules of this matrix. And Ludin Rusi David posted a video about this type. You should watch about this whole matrix rules. But also this matrix is the rule for other gods from other cells. So you have to understand that. And they're supposed to follow the rules to operate in those cells. So if you want to send a parasitic race and capture the cell from the locals, you're supposed to create at least two bodies, a male and a female body, to follow the rules of the cell in creation of other bodies. Otherwise, your body is going to be destroyed by some biological or whatever weapons that the cell has in its self-protection. So it has those mechanisms to protect itself, like from those parasitic creatures that they can enter, and that's why you have to follow the rules, not to lose this battle. But that doesn't mean that those parasites don't exist. If they look like us, if they dress like us, if they act like us, they are still our enemies, because they enter and they enslave the whole population of the cell, and they disbalance it, and they cut the beliefs of those people, just like we saw in those movies about final frontiers and stuff like that, when America expanded and it conquered all this territory from Indians. Just like that, those parasites attacked us before that, returned us to uh, the period when we lost the technology, sent bunch of floods, bunch of disasters, uh, so we can lose the connection between different parts of this world, this cell, and that's how they split, divide, and conquer the cells. So let's see if we have any questions about that. It is possible those photos are staged with Indians mixed with the whites. I think you're correct, but it's the information that some was mixed with somebody is also often used in Russia, because when they try to, poke Russian, they say like, Russian, we're gonna throw you, because if you read the book, you can understand that if you scratch a Russian for a little bit, you're gonna find Mongoloid. So this is like a joke. We had those DNA tests made on these different continents, and those guys made up the theory that most of these people were close to each other, and so the regional distribution of these genotypes or DNA types was also prevailing. And we're gonna talk about this maybe a little bit later, maybe next couple of videos that I'm gonna make. I'm gonna tell you information about this uh, genealogy, as they call it, uh, because those guys are geniuses forever, for real. Because even Jews that know so much about their creation and their uh, families and stuff like that, their ancestors, they follow all those traditions, and they ask those guys who made those research to do the tests, because they were suffering to know from where they actually came from, although they know much more than most of our nations here right now. So you must understand the level of professionalism those guys have. Okay, let's see what we have else. People of Eastern Russian continent definitely share features with American Aboriginal. Of course, even mainstream science says that they came from Asia, those Indians, so-called Indians. David, we don't really know who was first, white, black, Asian. Who was this biomaterial which was used by parasites to enter? Who was the first to live here? We have to research that, because it's really used to split and divide. Whoever was first was living here for at least 200 years. 200 years is enough to say that we are locals already. So everyone is local here right now. So if we lost our common history 200 years ago, how can we talk about it until we find it out who was really from who and who came first? We have to separate ourselves from those animals, those parasites that conquered this cell, and that's it. We have to reestablish the connection, and I think we're gonna find the truth only after that, because if we don't have the connection, and you know what I'm talking about, because nobody has the connection right now. Everything is shut down by those people that control us. So we don't know who was first. We know that we are living here for a while, and most likely that the so-called Scythians or Aryans or whatever were here for just as much as Chinese. But we are not sure about who was first or who was second. Nobody knows that. Nobody. Russia and America was one country, so they supposed to be allies for a while, and even I was showing the research of 1812 when, or even 1850s when we had a civil war in America and we had a Crimea war in Russia. So, and it was on the same topic. Most of all, we had a war which was resulting in slavery, the abolishment of slavery. So in America and Russia at the same period of time, the slaves were abolished after that war. So probably we were one country, and just like Alaska, California, Northern Canada, and all this western part of USA was uh, under Russian control till 19th century. So, but we are not saying like Russians are the best. No, Russians really fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Because they they made a bunch of mistakes in 20th century, just like everyone else did. So I'm not saying Russians are the best, stuff like that. We have to find out the truth in the different parts of the world, collect it together, whatever nation you are, whatever color or whatever language you speak. We are all in the same situation. We have to find out what happened 200 years ago, find out the real information, and reestablish the connection. So this is the only way we have to shut this down. Black and white, yes, that's correct. We have to save the traditional symbolism because from what I've learned and for what I've understand, there is no good or evil. Everything is equal. Our understanding of evil is wrong. We are evil to ourselves, for example, but we're okay with that. We are okay with lying to our friends and maybe families. We're okay to cheat our friends and wives and stuff like that. We're okay to uh, cheat the government, maybe don't pay some taxes, maybe cross the streets on the red light. We're okay to do something which is can do harm to us. We're okay to go to jail sometimes. We're okay to hit a guy for no reason. We're okay to uh, jump from the bridge, maybe. We are evil to ourselves, not to our world, because we are no competent to that. But when we gather together, we can do whatever. We, the processor of the cell, we actually can make this cell better and reestablish this connection that we had. And this is not like we're gonna have to do it next year or in 10 years or in 20 years. I'm gonna tell you that it's wrong. We can't do it this fast. Maybe the generation after ours, their kids, their grandkids gather the critical mass and they can start it actually, maybe in 100 years. But we have to start talking about it right now if we want to move things in 100 years. They've been doing it for 200 years. They've been covering it. And you think we can do it in one day? You think we can do it in 1 year? No way. At least 100 years will pass until all those parasitic uh, habits that we used to have will disappear and dissolve. Only on the establishment of uh, ecological practices that we used to have, only on the firm knowledge of Vedic traditions, only on the way of creating new technologies which are safe for this world, only on returning traditional priorities that we had. This is the basement of the further development of this world. Otherwise, it is stuck and it's degrading and it's descending in this ocean of hell that we are right now floating to. So, thanks a lot for watching me today. Maybe Sunday or Saturday we're gonna have more broadcasts. So, thanks a lot. See you later. and bye.